안녕하세요. And thank you, Kristen, for your kind words. My Korean name is Yoon Chang, but everyone calls me Yoon. And I'm delighted to be here today to speak to you about one of South Korea's most famous and current creative exports, namely fashion, and its relationship with this phenomenon that we know of as Hallyu, the Korean wave. Now, I'd like to begin with a quote by the author Eun Hong from her book, The Birth of Korean Cool. Quote, Korea was not cool in 1985. Now, I love this statement because here at the Hallyu exhibit at the Boston MFA, we are able to experience how South Korea has become the cool hub of popular culture. Through the world popularity of TV dramas, cinema, K-pop, and fashion, Koreans have brought awareness and curiosity about this cultural wave. I'm excited to give you insight as to how all these cultural aspects have shifted the global creative landscape through the lens of Korean designers and their innovative work. Today, I hope to show you that Korea is indeed cool. So let's go back in history a little bit and focus on a very important Korean fashion staple, the hanbok. Hopefully many of you are already acquainted with the hanbok. If not, that's okay, as I'm going to share some history of our traditional clothes, as I would like to focus and reflect more on how the hanbok has influenced our contemporary fashion today. The hanbok is a general expression to describe all Korean clothes. The components that we are familiar with are made up of two garments, a fitted crop jacket, the chogori, and a voluminous skirt called the chima. Over centuries, the hanbok has gone through transformations, but the one that we are most familiar with is the fit and look from the mid to late Joseon dynasty period, which is from the late 14th century to the early 20th century. It was in the late 19th century when the term hanbok was coined to differentiate our traditional clothing with that of the Western world. The cultural exchange in connection with other countries such as China, Japan, and eventually the West, influenced the shape and design of the hanbok in many ways. Trends were noted and recognized in these high societal exchanges, and our ancestors adapted, integrated meaningful elements in the silhouette of layering garments, fabric choices, and decorative details such as embroidery in the hanbok. Essentially, we took the fashion trends of the time and made it our own, which is not a far cry from what is currently happening in our world today. Eventually, the hanbok shifted to accommodate the practical and versatile needs of our people thanks to modernization and trade with the West. Now on the screen, I've shared some personal photographs. One is a formal photo of my brother Hyuk and his bride Eunmi and my parents. Note the sumptuous and elaborate embroideries and details of which I will expand on later. And of course, the classic two-piece hanbok that I just mentioned earlier that my mother wore. For example, the chogori, the chima, and the ot korong, which are the straps that bow tie at the neck. So this is my mother's honeymoon picture on the right, which has sort of detailed the chima and the chogori and the korong. And then again, with my brother and his wife. Now, in traditional Korean society, colors and embellishments in hanbok attire carried significant symbolic meanings related to gender, social class, marital status, and age. These color embellishments were important as they not only reflected cultural norms and values, but also served as visual cues for understanding individuals' identities, roles, and social standing within Korean society. They contributed to the overall richness and diversity of Korean traditional attire, highlighting the intricate relationship between clothing and societal norms. Now I will ask you to use your imagination to visualize the vibrant hues that I will be describing. Some of these photos I'll be sharing are in black and white or sepia, but they were too beautiful not to include. So as I mentioned, visual cues, let's first discuss gender. The men's hanbok typically featured darker, more subdued colors, such as black, gray, brown, or navy blue, which were considered more masculine and were also associated with the traditional and the responsibilities of men in society. The women's hanbok, on the other hand, featured a wider range of colors, including vibrant hues as red, green, pink, and yellow. Pastel colors and floral patterns were also very common. These colors reflected the traditional ideals of femininity, beauty, and grace. So as you can see, there's a stunning image to your left on the screen which depicts a moment on the road of men, women, and children convening together. You can only imagine how elaborate the aristocrats are dressed in the vivid clothes that they must be wearing. And then the photo on the right is a reproduction of a painting that Lee Kyung-sun recreated in garment form for the Arumchigi Culture Keepers Foundation hanbok exhibit. Now let's talk about social class. Now on the screen there is a noble lady in a chair surrounded by her attendants. Note the difference in dress between her and her staff, which symbolize their social positions in life. Now members of the noble class, members of the noble class often wore hanbok made from luxurious fabrics such as silk and were adorned with intricate embroidery, elaborate patterns, and of gold and silver threads. These embellishments symbolize wealth, status, and privilege. Mythical creatures such as dragons, phoenixes were represented for the king and queen. Nature such as flowers, animals, and birds were reserved for the court. The shape of the badge upon which they were embroidered also cued their social status in connection with the heavens, which was a circle and reserved for the monarchy, or earth, which was in shape of a square, often seen worn by the cultural ministers. Now, as you can see, here the Koreans are dressed in sumptuous silky textures with ornate details and accessories, whether they are government or cultural ministers, or the beautiful Empress Myeongseong. Note her elaborate and gorgeous hanbok, beautifully embroidered, printed, and woven. And to the right is a jiseng, a courtesan who also wears a very splendid hanbok. In stark contrast, the commoners such as servants and laborers typically wore hanbok made from more affordable and humble fabrics such as cotton, hemp, or rami. Designs were simple with fewer embellishments, more suited to their daily activities and reflecting their lower social status. And see how the wood-carriers' clothes are pragmatic. They're made of fabrics that can withstand washes and the wear and tear of the labor-intensive responsibilities. And the ladies of Busan on the road are wearing shorter hanboks to go about and do their daily chores. Now, how can we tell by their hanbok if they're single or married? So married women often wore hanbok with more modest and subdued colors compared to unmarried women. Darker shades such as deep blues, purples, or greens were preferred, symbolizing maturity and marital stability, much more discreet than the unmarried women. As you can see, the example of the noble couple at the top left, and also the more modern image on the left of the Korean woman with the navy blue and soft lavender chima. Now, the single ladies, on the other hand, had more freedom to wear brighter and more colorful hanbok, often featuring bold colors and floral motifs. Red, in particular, was considered auspicious and was commonly worn by unmarried women to symbolize youth, vitality, good fortune, and of being marriage material. A vision definitely not to pass by. So as you can see, note the bright fuchsia peony shade, the modern image in the center of the young woman with a citrus green choguri. Also on the right are flat drawings of the hanbok. And you can see the different pieces that they wear for more formal situations or when they were outdoors. You can see at the bottom of the right side the chima, which is the skirt, as I mentioned before. And there's a very interesting anecdote that I read that there was a teacher from the West who noted how uncomfortable the young women looked with their breasts bound by the strap across their chima. So she actually introduced them to the shoulder strap. And when these young women went home, their families adopted these straps, which allowed them to be more free and more functional with the way they wore the chima. And finally, age. Hanbok for children typically featured bright colors and playful designs, reflecting their innocence and youthful energy. Embellishments such as animal motifs or geometric shapes and stripes were common, as indicated in the image on your left, with the French nun and her converts. The elderly, the more mature individuals, often wore hanbok with more muted colors and simpler designs, reflecting their wisdom, maturity, and traditional values. On the bottom right image, you'll see two older gentlemen playing a game of changi, a form of Korean chess. Now, history aside, you must be asking yourself, how did the mighty hanbok impact and garner media attention in the West? Well, we can thank K-pop, K-dramas, and Korean cinema for that. Now, there is an endless list of amazing K-dramas and movies, but I want to highlight a couple of my favorites for its historical significance and the visual impact of the hanbok has in these two dramas. Now, folks, can I see a raise of hands, perhaps, who have watched Mr. Sunshine? 1, 2, okay. Well, Mr. Sunshine is a Korean drama set in the late 19th century during the Joseon dynasty. The storyline follows the journey of Eugene Choi, played by actor Lee Byung-hun, a Korean-born American soldier who returns to his homeland as part of the United States Marine Corps. He becomes embroiled in a complex web of political intrigue, loyalty, and of course, a love triangle, as he navigates this tumultuous period of Korean history marked by imperialism and social upheaval. They're all perfect ingredients for a successful Netflix series. Now, in Mr. Sunshine, several main characters wore hanbok, or actually many did, each reflecting their social class, occupation, and personal circumstances. Ko Ae-shin, played by the beautiful Kim Tae-ri, and as you can see, she takes up most of the slide, is a noblewoman, and spoiler alert, she's also part of the Korean Righteous Army. She's often seen wearing elaborate and luxurious hanbok befitting her social status and eligibility as a single woman. Her hanbok features intricate embroidery, rich fabrics and colors, and elegant designs, all reflecting her privileged upbringing and adherence to traditional customs and values. And how can we not forget that moment when samurai character Koo Dong-me touches the hem of her hanbok, as you see on the bottom right. A sensorial childhood memory of feeling the silky texture of Ae-shin's chima when she saves the poor butcher boy's son from certain death. And then fast forward, the taboo moment of a sort of non-consensual silk hem feel. And on the flip side to Ae-shin's character is her role as a commoner. She, as a rebel sniper, wears white and more humble fabrics devoid of decoration to empathize with her allegiance to the people of Joseon. Some of you may also wonder why Koreans also adopted for white in the late Joseon period. I'm sure you took notice of the minimalist differences in Mr. Sunshine and some of the historical photos that I shared earlier. As Neo-Confucianists, Koreans prefer simple hanboks devoid of decoration as it represents both purity and resilience and the starting point of humanity. But it also became a symbol of resistance during the Japanese colonization between 1910 and 45. Foreigners referred to the Joseon people as the white-clad Koreans. The simplicity of the hanbok reflected the practicalities of their lives and their resistance to societal norms and conventions. This ideology is again reinforced in the final episode when the villagers stand ground and hide Ae-shin from government officials. They link arms in solidarity, and the austere, humble clothing in the common Joseon people stand out. This was a very powerful moment for me visually and spiritually, as it emphasized the sobriety, strength, simplicity, and power of the hanbok and the might of the Joseon people. So of course, after watching this series, the mighty algorithm of Netflix suggested The Royal Tailor. So actor Yoo Yeon-suk, who played the samurai Koo Dong-me, which I just mentioned in Mr. Sunshine, takes the role of the unmarried king in this movie. I was completely intrigued by its focus on the fashion maker, as this fictional story revolves around the rivalry between two master tailors, Cho Do-seok and Lee Gong-jin, who compete for the title of the royal tailor. Now, this is fashion drama at its historical best. I'm going to call it the original Project Runway. Their rivalry intensifies when a lowly-born genius designer, said Lee Gong-jin, is brought into the palace to shake up the traditional world of royal fashion. As they vie for favor with the king and the queen, Their personal ambitions and secrets come to light, leading to dramatic sequences. The tailor showcases the evolution of traditional hanbok designs within the royal court in the Joseon era. Lee Gongjin, the underdog tailor, introduces innovative, unconventional, and avant-garde designs that challenge traditional norms and set new trends, as you can see in these images. It's a hanbok revolution in Joseon times. His bold, daring, and rule-breaking approach to traditional craftsmanship not only impresses the royal family, but redefines the role of the royal tailor. The movie is a feast for the eyes, and I highly recommend you to see it. Now let us shift the influence of the hanbok from streaming platforms and see its influence in the world of music. K-pop stars utilize their public platform to celebrate and promote Korean cultural identity through their fashion choices, including the fusion of hanbok-inspired garments with streetwear style. For example, artists like BTS and Blackpink have worn modernized versions of hanbok in their music videos and stage outfits, introducing the traditional attire to a younger international audience and influencing fashion trends. Some of these garments are actually displayed in the exhibit downstairs, so I highly recommend for you to take a look at them again. BTS, one of the biggest K-pop band. In their 2018 music video, Idol, BTS members are seen proudly wearing and dancing in modernized, hanbok-inspired outfits, blending traditional Korean aesthetics with contemporary streetwear. They make the hanbok, which is typically seen worn for more ceremonial celebrations such as Chuseok, New Year's, or weddings, fashionable and attention-worthy. I love how they stood out in the silky blacks and golds in their robe like hanboks, a stark contrast from the rest of the video, which is a playful kaleidoscope of patterns and colors. They not only showcase the beauty and diversity of Korean culture, but also inspire their fans to embrace their own cultural heritage with pride. Designer Baek Ok-soo and her son Cho Jin-woo designed their hanbok-inspired pieces. They infuse a relaxed and edgy coolness to them, excluding the traditional otgoram, the ribbon which is attached to the jacket. Now, they styled this with sneakers such as Nike Air Jordans, and they brought them into contemporary and relatable fashion realm. The band continued to show off their Korean roots by integrating hanbok-influenced pieces on tour and at some performances, such as the Melon Music Awards, which is on the top of the screen. The band continued, not only did they showcase their stylish hanboks, but they also had show their reverence to Korean culture by integrating and transitioning easily between Korean dances such as the buchecham, which is a fan dance, with hip-hop. The fluid movement of the robes added to the energetic choreography of their performance. Now, for you blinks out there, I'm going to now talk about Blackpink, as they also wore modernized hanbok-inspired garments, keeping the integrity of traditional Korean hanbok craftsmanship and elements such as the joguri and chima, but with a very sexy modern twist. In their video, How You Like That, they wore pieces designed by Kim Dan-ha, which they later further customized by their stylists to fit Jennie, Jisoo, Lisa, and Rose. Through their media exposure, Blackpink accelerated the visibility of designer Hana to all and brought a deeper interest in her other contemporary hanbok designs. Now, recently at the 2023 Coachella Music Festival, Blackpink broke the record as being the first Asian act to headline the festival and stepped out wearing hanboks. They visually set the powerful and symbolic tone of Korean pride before strutting out to perform. The group's 4 black hanboks were custom designed by South Korean pattern design brand OUWR and traditional Korean dressmakers Kim Dan-jae. Again, another collaborative effort between a parent and child, in this case, a mother and daughter team. Inspired by the cholik silhouette, each garment was hand-embroidered with metallic traditional Korean motifs, including dancheong patterns and peonies, a symbol of royalty in Korea. The colors of pink and black were integrated into the hanbok designs, reflecting the feminine yet sexy image and spirit that Jennie, Jisoo, Lisa, and Rose embody. This truly was a moment of feeling seen, through fashion representing Korean culture. Now, as a designer, I'm always thinking about construction, the how and why. The hanbok is cut and sewn flat, not draped on a mannequin or kinetically on the body, but flat. One forgets to appreciate these basic fundamentals, and how fantastic is it that volume is created through this process. The principal reason for pattern making versus draping is to avoid waste. Yes, the hanbok is sustainable in that it's almost zero waste. The making of these textiles takes time and skill. Everything was conserved, including the scraps, to be used for sekdong, which are the colorful stripes you saw earlier in the chogori sleeves of the children, or chogapgo, a style of patchwork. By creatively piecing together these remnants, chogapgo allows for the creation of new and unique textiles, while minimizing textile waste, aligning with principles of sustainability and resourcefulness. These meticulously patched fabric remnants are often arranged in intricate geometric patterns or designs and stitched together using a traditional Korean patchwork technique as chok. This technique involved hand sewing pieces together with small, even stitches, resulting in a durable and visually striking textile. Now, this image that I'm sharing with you, you can see how the plait patterns are laid out on potential fabric on the top right corner, and then stitched together, and also the garments are cut in terms of the grain line. But it's obvious that there is very little waste, and that these remnants will be saved for a new purpose. Now, much like an embroidery or quilting circle in the West, this domestic tradition was most prevalent within the lower socioeconomic classes of Korean society to repurpose fabric for practical means, but also to supplement their income by selling these textiles. As previously mentioned, chogapgo served multiple purposes in traditional Korean society. A, for apparel, which you see on the right, but also wrapping cloths, which is a pogaji on the left, for storing and transporting goods, which are for transporting goods. And then the chogapgo also became decorative covering for household items like bedding and table runners. From a bonding perspective, the chogapgo skills were proudly passed down from mother to daughter to ensure that their family style and techniques continue to be cherished and respected from one generation to the next. Okay, here we go.
Just one flap.
And you come back to the sewing machine and you stitch it down.
Fold under and sew along the edge.
You're essentially making flat felt seams over and over again until you have enough of chogapgo that you want. It's a very repetitive process, but it's also very meditative. Just keep it going. Here's the little chogapgo baby, and you just keep adding on to this until you have enough chogapgo.
Until you have enough to make something like this.
Try it and tag me.
Okay. Pardon me, I'm just navigating through this system here. There we go. So, there we go. I'd like to highlight a designer and also Parsons graduate whose Instagram reel I just shared with you. Her work is also displayed here at the Hallyu exhibit. Ji-won Choi. Her look is that cool striped piece in black and white downstairs, a collaborative effort with the athletic brand Adidas. Now, she just recently started designing clothes using this jok sewing technique, thus creating her own chogapgo. Ji-won taps into her Korean heritage of craft, and as you can see, thinks globally in terms of her design, sensibility, and sustainability. Ji-won takes silk organza to create her chogapgo. She's using modern machinery to sew each square, again, zero waste due to the shape of the pieces she is cutting, and then flat felts them together, a very time-consuming labor of love, but definitely more quick to sew than the traditional hand sewing technique. Now note how beautiful the volume of the dress is and the additional lines that occurred due to the overlapping and crossing of the sheer chogapgo, a choice Ji-won intentionally made. As illustrated through Ji-won's work, many contemporary designers draw on cultural references and symbolism associated with the hanbok to infuse deeper meaning into their collections. The hanbok has become less ritualistic and not only reserved for the holidays and celebrations, but the revival and preservation of the hanbok is aimed at not only celebrating and paying homage to our traditional heritage, but educating other communities about our culture. For the next segment of my lecture, I'd like to introduce the new contributors to the Hallyu wave, specifically women designers. I have had the pleasure of teaching and mentoring these 3 Korean designers at Parsons School of Design, who chose to focus on personal experiences that reflect the opinions of their community and generation today. Oh, did it work? Yes. So Claire Kim, class of 2023, focused her thesis collection on taemong, which are conceptual dreams experienced traditionally by expectant mothers during pregnancy, and in some cases, fathers or other family members who may also have significant dreams related to the unborn child, as is the case for Claire. These dreams are believed to carry significant meaning and symbolism regarding the unborn child's future personality, traits, and fortunes. The purpose of taemong is to provide insights into the child's destiny and to guide the parents in preparing for their child's birth and upbringing. Okay. So this story is about Claire's father's taemong, who had a dream about finding himself under a pink and purple sky, right by the river, and discovers a shiny and pretty silver clam. How idyllic. Now let's dig deeper and find some context to these symbols. Now the pink and purple sky of these colors suggests a sense of tranquility, beauty, and harmony. More specifically, pink often symbolizes love, nurturing, and femininity, while purple can represent spirituality, intuition, and royalty. The bodies of water, such as rivers, often symbolize the emotions, the subconscious mind, and the flow of life. Being by the river in the dream suggests a journey of self-discovery, emotional exploration, or spiritual growth that Claire may undertake. Now, many of these are similarly expressed in other cultures, which I'm sure you can connect with or recognize. When Mr. Kim picked up this clam, it may symbolize hidden treasures, secrets, or opportunities coming to light. The clam's shiny silver appearance suggests purity, clarity, and value, which could represent the uncovering of hidden talents, insights, or resources within Claire. During her thesis development, she explored and deciphered all these possible symbols and its physical characteristics too. The inner and outer aspects of the shell, the layered texture and ridges of its exterior, delicate in look, but hard in feel. Then the opalescence of the smooth interior, a deep contrast to the hard protective shell that withstands all. The liquid, smooth, rippling motion of the river, the reflection of the sun and sky on the water and shell. Her materiality and silhouette exploration emphasize these aspects. She also explored the maturation of a girl to womanhood, hence the mystery which comes through the darker, shiny, and sensual fabrics and surfaces in this next slide. As a creative, she considers the whole narrative and feel of her story, from hand-sewn pearlized neck stockings to a mysterious and dreamy chiaroscuro-type backdrop for her film and photography of her garments. These small but mighty details and ambiance serve to set the tone of her collection. Claire took these signifiers to unfold these fairy tale moments and parlay them into her garments. The seashell silhouette was key, as she was keen to have the, sorry, that sounds like a rhyme there, as she was keen to have the viewer feel the mystery, beauty, and dreamlike emotions. Overall, Claire's taemong was interpreted as a positive dream of symbolizing emotional and spiritual fulfillment, the discovery of inner beauty and talents, and the unfolding of new opportunities. I've seen her transformation during her thesis year, and her collection conveys all of these taemong expectations. I know much awaits for her going forward. Now, going down a more personal path, I would like to share sort of a humorous anecdote. I too recall being utterly fascinated with the conception dream my mother had before giving birth to me. That's me on the right. So actually that's my passport photograph coming from Korea with my mother. Apparently she had a dream about walking on a beach, sunshine on her face, and then suddenly she sees a golden dragon emerging from the calm seas and fly into the clear blue skies. And she was very specific about this. She said his tail was very shiny and beautiful. So my mother was in a state of awe and unafraid, meaning she didn't hightail it back to her small little village. So the dreams involving a golden dragon flying in a clear sky are considered highly auspicious and are interpreted as a sign of great fortune and success for the child. As mentioned earlier, the dragon is a powerful symbol in Korean culture, representing strength, wisdom, and good luck. Now, would you like to hear what my halmoni, my grandmother, said to my mother when she told her of her taemong? She exclaimed, "Wow, what a beautiful dream. You are going to have a son." Surprise! So traditionally, families wish for a first son because my father is also a first son. And when my mother, she did give birth to two sons after me, siblings who I adore and cherish. But as the loving and supportive parents that they are, I have become their golden dragon. I encourage to ask your mother or family members if they recall a taemong dream. It's much better than getting your tarot cards read. So for my next slide, I'd like to introduce my next designer, Alice Eugene Sun, and her collection titled The Invisible Woman. Okay. So Alice Sun, also Parsons graduate of 2023, was initially inspired by an article written in February 2022 in Korean Vogue about introducing their stylish mothers. 멋쟁이 엄마를 소개합니다. Splashed across the pages are photos of smiling young women in what obviously seems like captured happy moments in their lives. In this article, one of the daughters made a comment that her mother is rarely in photos now and prefers instead to take photos of her daughter because she's forgotten how to smile into the camera. Now curious, Alice went through old photographs of her mother's life before children, as you see on the right, and candidly asked her about her feelings post-marriage. Mrs. Sun confessed that she felt invisible as all family members assumed domestic chores were her sole responsibilities as mother and wife. Alice wanted to recognize this invisibility and bring a voice to all women around the world to let them know we see them, and that this stereotype needs to shift. Through Alice's thesis, dedicated to her superhero, her mother, and the invisible women, she hopes to empower and champion women through her confident and bold designs. Designers often choose a muse to set the tone and vision of their collection storytelling. Alice chose the middle-aged Asian woman, a nod to her mother, but also emphasizing the celebration of beauty of all ages. She initially started her process by filming herself doing different chores. The movement and actions of cleaning informed her draping explorations. The color palette inspired by the cleaning tools, which are often bright and wacky, whereas cleaning is not. And now you can see by these images of her process how she extracted these movements to inform her designs. Her materiality and print investigations alluded to the soap suds and the repetitive swiping movements that you saw earlier of the sponge as represented in the pink looks. The covered face, the invisibility of women, dares others to put their own face in her place. Now you can see on the right is her illustrated lineup and also her final look book shots showing the front and back details. There are technical pages on the left of showing her construction, her toile investigation, and her fabrications. Now this page, which I'll call the blue soap page, is her look number 4. Alice was intrigued by the texture of the sponge and its astrotype-like scrub surface. She explored this in her garments and accessories using a faux fur quality, kinder to the touch. Again, movement of cleaning and the sweep of her garments with the jagged edges conveying use and fatigue. This white look, the inner structure, was a challenge that she gladly took to create volume and lightness in her look. Her sculptural proportions are again continuing this fairy tale-like dress. There is a feeling of collapse in her shifting movements within the garments and the structure. And in this black look, Alice found a crinkled tech fabric that gave off the texture of a trash bag. And this is actually one of my favorite looks, as it's very elegant and deconstructed in its tactile shredding. Now, the yellow looks and the pink says look, they're the most colorful of Alice's collection. Again, I mentioned the faces are covered to emphasize women's invisibility as a homemaker, but luxury is present in the fabric and in her couture evening wear silhouettes. The location of the shoot, the expressiveness of the model, and her direct gaze challenges you to see the power, strength, and narrative of her collection. And all I can say is that I see you, I see me, and I appreciate the symbolism and acknowledgement portrayed in Alice's personal vision and craft. It's an unapologetic ode to women all over the world who feel forgotten. Her thesis work was recognized by many. Post-graduation, she was highlighted in Vanilla, Not Just a Label, Nijal, Vogue, Hypebeast, and many garments were called in for other editorials. Just recently, she collaborated in a music video for New York cellist Mizu and performance artist Kenny Zhu, titled Flutter, from her album Forest Scenes, which I'll play a little short segment for you. So I hope you enjoyed that. And as I mentioned, I'm really excited to see what Alice does next, that she's shown that she's really excited to work with new collaborators in not just fashion, but also in music and in theater and in film. So I look forward to see what she does next. And finally, I'd like to share the works of Nayeon Kim, who also graduated from Parsons in 2022 and started her brand the same year. Nayeon's work was recognized by the CFDA, which is the Council of Fashion and Designers of America. She won a scholarship prior to entering her thesis year. Nayeon's minimalistic approach and meticulous attention to detail and finishes really tunes into the aesthetics of many South Koreans in regards to fashion. Modern, timelessness, and luxurious craftsmanship are key elements in her design. She brings another layer into her brand by designing gender-neutral clothes that speak of inclusiveness and her contemporary viewpoints of society. Now, this is a wonderful page demonstrating her intuitive processes and research. You can see in her silhouette and, here, and the next page as well. You can see her silhouette investigation through collage and illustrations to inform her shape and proportions. Her debut collection, Autumn-Winter 2023, was shown in both Seoul at the Tado Design LG Art Center and also in New York at Studio 525. Titled Brute Generation, Nayeon's designs were inspired by brutalist architecture. Reveling in the severity of the building structures, she used construction and layering of fabrics to convey this idea of armor and protection, a theme she also explored in her thesis year. Light and darkness, aspects that she sees in this generation, also parlays into not just the color story, but also the weight of her fabrics. As you can see by the tailoring, in their suitings and the coatings, they feel both light and heavy. Also, the way, the proportions as they sweep to the ground, it also has a very monastic and authoritative feel to them. In her photo shoot, these images, which are from her lookbook, her choice of model addresses, again, gender inclusiveness, allowing people to access her world and vision without discrimination. Nayeon's Spring 2023 collection had a more streetwear vibe with her use of denim, leather, and deconstruction elements. Sort of cool, higher-end denim that can be worn day to day and into evening. Still, you can see the level of quality in the details, such as the hardware and deliberate design lines of the garments. Her Spring 2024 collection is called Protagonist. Her designs were inspired by the cinematic reel that spins in her head, which she describes in her statement as a person who lives with anxiety in this world that is seemingly and relentlessly hit with war and battle for power. She uses graphic patterns, colors with military-inspired details to emphasize the sense of hopelessness. But through this hopelessness, she states there is strength and experience, learned and built through scars, which she worked into the prints, and she hopes will make us stronger, wise, and seek resolution. It's a reminder in our heavy political and social times to persevere and communicate peacefully. Now, prior to starting her own brand, she also got her feet wet by working as a New York correspondent for Harper's Bazaar Korea in 2018, which she still continues to do so. Nayeon also worked alongside some of K-pop's biggest names. This included being part of the style team with stylist Kyungwon Choi for Blackpink's original style concept and first tour, and also as Psy's styling director for his new boy band TNX, which is for the New Six. This gave her great insight and connections to other incredible creatives and collaborators. Nayeon realized early on that fashion is no longer just about clothes. It's about lifestyle, building multidisciplinary and working in creative collaborations and community. She, quote, "I pursue designs that could interact with our society, converse with their public, and create their own purpose," end of quote. Now on the screen, you can see images of actor Cha Eun-woo in her fall 2023 pieces for W Korea, To the right is actor Park Soam for Days Korea. It's nice to see how the clothing moves within this reel. It's very masculine, and cool, and dangerous. It's almost like a new way of looking at how one could wear motorcycle dressing in a new, sophisticated way. In this screen, you can see images of celebrities that have worn our clothes in both the editorial world and also in public. Singer and actor Taemin to the left and middle, and then to your right, actor Min-ha Kim of recent pachinko fame. In this next slide, you'll see K-pop stars and actors. Actor Ji-hoo Park in the Bernetta dress for Marie Claire Korea on the top left-hand side. Singer Kia Shinhee, actor Youngdae Kim, and rapper Sik-K, all wearing clothes from our fall and spring collections. And in this slide, the beautiful Terry Kim, who you saw earlier in my Mr. Sunshine slides, is wearing Nayeon's stunning straplet denim corset dress from the spring 2023 denim leather collection. In this slide, I want to talk about the older generation, as she addressed who look absolutely fabulous in her clothes too. Actor Chung Jae-lee of Squid Game fame, actor Nam Gil Kim from Pachinko on the right, and then contemporary artist Nikki Lee in the center, who I had the pleasure of meeting years ago in New York City. Nayeon is a great example of how Korean fashions can transcend all social and stereotypes that Korean clothes, such as the hanbok, once represented. Shape, fabric, and decoration no longer have to be the social cues to identify ourselves. Gender is no longer an issue, as your tailoring and gender-fluid garments signify how all humans can choose a design garment without the gender label. Perhaps it is an aspirational piece for some due to its price point, but its timelessness and quality of make speak of longevity, a piece that can be handed down to other family members or friends as legacy pieces, as we are and should be more conscious about sustainability and waste. Her clothes also transcend age, as shown by the different actors and singers of all ages who wear or are dressed in her clothes. I know that I, a mature woman, desire many of the pieces in her collection. I'm excited to witness this new generation of Hallyu designers who continue to rise and crest this wave. By sharing their heritage and Korean pride through their creative expressions and collaborations with others on an international level. Whether we sit back, immersing ourselves in the world of K-dramas or cinemas, maybe it's memorizing lyrics and getting teeny bopper hysterical while plastering posters of our favorite K-pop idols on our walls in their I must have looks. Or simply by supporting these rising and talented designers by buying and wearing their designs. Let them bring awareness through this preservation and innovation of our traditions and culture, and continue to be relevant in this. Let us be environmentally responsible and kind to our earth through their methods and crafts. Let's create gender and age-defying clothes with looking ahead and engage through positive action. This is Hallyu. 감사합니다. Questions? Yes. Anybody have any questions? Yes, please.
I've got a microphone
the
here that I
microphone.
can bring down to you.
Oh, thank you very much for your lecture. It was really interesting. I am embarrassed to say that my guilty pleasure is to watch contemporary rom-com K-dramas.
Yes.
And I don't see any of these styles. In fact, I see a lot of Western styles adapted to, youngsters. But mostly the characters are wearing sneakers. Mm-hmm. The young women are wearing blue jeans and stiletto heels, and they're wearing jackets with broad shoulders and lapels. So I'm just wondering how haute couture, it gets translated into everyday clothing.
Well, I think it depends on the designer and what their, actually that's a very good question, is in terms of how they want their brand or collection to be. There'll be moments where I see with my students in particular that they do reflect on their heritage and experiences as a young Korean person and how they want to sort of talk about that through their collections. But when you look at the K-dramas, the modern contemporary dramas, there might be hints of it which you might not notice. It could be the fabrication, or it could be maybe the way the chogori wrap happens. They'll be subtle, not so overt as to what I just showed you through the more historical dramas. I actually showed those just to emphasize how we are more exposed to Korean culture and aware of the hanbok and the Korean traditional dress versus, you know, the celebrations of Chuseok or weddings, which I always had to wear my hanbok during those times. So it's probably more subtle, but when you look at, I've listed a couple of, on the pamphlet, there's some designers, modern designers that you can also look at that use the hanbok as ways to identify their Korean heritage. Or maybe there's also the way they craft it. There might, like I showed you with Jiwon, she uses chogapgo to create her fabrics, which is a Korean method, and as I mentioned, sustainable. But she creates these very modern pieces, right, that many people will can connect with and adapt to and desire. But the method that she created this hanbok, dress or garments, was through something that she knew of as a Korean person. Thank you. Yes.
No, it's okay. Thank you for the talk. It was really interesting. When I was young, I'm Korean, and I had to wear a hanbok. I remember when we had to put the thing across our chest and the little short jacket, that my mom told me that the best way to look appropriate is to have a straight line, from up here all the way, with no kind of bumps. And the only way to do that was to bow slightly, so that it was a straight line down. So, which meant you're always bowing slightly, yes. right? So, like the sexism or the patriarchy is inherent in the style of the clothing, right? Yes. So I appreciate the update, but my question is, anytime I look for one, it's always that really uncomfortable, crunchy formal fabric. Where can I just get a regular, peasant or whatever hanbok?
My daughters, I have twin daughters. So growing up, they did wear more of the colorful, traditional silk, hanboks. But I too sought the more casual, cotton, everyday type hanboks. I actually had to ask a friend to bring it back from Korea. I know, and they're beautiful. They're not long. They're sort of ankle length. They're in the sort of soft linen or cotton, and the colors are more subdued. But I wish there was more available in the States, and I'm sure there will be eventually, but through Korean resources and stores, there is definitely a market for it. But I have a girlfriend who just visited from Korea, and she had this beautiful wrap contemporary coat that looked very much like a hanbok, but in a menswear tailoring fabric, and I thought she looked stunning and fabulous and modern in it. But I immediately thought of the Korean hanbok because of the way it was designed and the way it wrapped and the simplicity of it with the big sleeve. Not that's a big sleeve, but the way it was designed. But yes, I'm sorry, I wish I had a resource for you. Anybody else?
Okay, thank you so much for coming today, and thank you for the wonderful lecture, Loon.
Thank you. 감사합니다.